Hi everyone, and welcome to the Daily Citizen News Update. This week our team is covering a number of compelling stories ranging from culture to politics, but before we get to those, today is September 11th. 19 years ago on this date, our country and our lives were changed forever when Al-Qaeda terrorists hijacked passenger planes, crashing them into the World Trade Center and the Pentagon. A third plane, believed to have been headed for the White House or Capitol, never made it to its intended target, thanks to the bravery of the passengers on board who, after talking via phone with friends and family on the ground and learning of the attacks, rushed the cockpit, causing the plane to crash in Shanksville, Pennsylvania. Almost 3,000 Americans lost their lives on September 11th. It was a seminal moment in our nation's history. So today, take a moment to remember them. It's truly the very least we can do. Turning to our top stories, a Nobel Prize nomination is making waves, and President Trump announces his picks for a potential Supreme Court vacancy. With more on those stories, Bruce Houseconect.
This week, we received surprising news that President Trump has been nominated for the 2021 Nobel Peace Prize for his work in brokering a peace deal between Israel and the United Arab Emirates. This nomination has caused quite a public stir here in the United States. So to find out more about that, please check out my article at the Daily Citizen. If he wins, Trump will join 4 U.S. presidents as recipients of that honor. Also this week, President Trump released a list of 20 Supreme Court nominees that he added to the list of 25 that he issued back in 2016 in his first run for the White House. Among the list of potential nominees include 3 U.S. senators, Ted Cruz, Josh Hawley, and Tom Cotton, along with 2 former U.S. solicitors general and a host of other lawyers and judges. Will that list make a difference come November? Back in 2016, 1 in 5 voters said that the Supreme Court was a factor in their vote.
Thanks, Bruce. This week, the Trump administration announced that it would be cutting millions of dollars in funding to federal agencies that are using those funds for anti-American propaganda training. Zach Mettler has been following this story. And Zach, can you tell us a little bit more about this anti-American training that these federal agencies are engaging in?
Right. This week, I wrote a story on Director Russ Vogt, who's the director of the Office of Management and Budget. He sent a memo around to all the different departments and agencies in the federal government telling them to cut millions of dollars of funding for racial bias training. Now, some of these trainings have cost hundreds of thousands of dollars, and they've said that golf and time management and things like that are part of white culture. And so this move by the Trump administration will save taxpayers millions of dollars.
And Zach, what's been the response from congressional leadership on the Hill to the president's actions?
Senator Josh Hawley tweeted out his support for the memo and the action by the Trump administration, and he called it divisive, Marxist-inspired nonsense that shouldn't receive a single dime of taxpayer dollars. So he's obviously very supportive of this measure and ending critical race theory in the federal government.
You mentioned critical race theory in that tweet from Senator Josh Hawley. Can you provide a little context, some additional information for those in our audience who may not know what that is?
Critical race theory is basically the idea that every action and every person should be viewed through the lens of race. And so now with the Trump administration's actions here, it looks like federal government workers will have more time to do their jobs because they'll be spending less time training.
Next up, it's no secret that California has had its share of troubles over the last few months, from COVID spikes to wildfires. But are some government officials using the crises to advance questionable legislation? With more on that story, Jeff Johnston.
As you said, Michael, California is facing a number of really serious issues right now, including a multi-billion-dollar state deficit. Early on in the COVID pandemic, legislators were sent home, and when they returned to session, they were told to prioritize legislation that had to do with the issues facing the state. Here are a couple bills they thought were important enough to pass. One of the bills sets up a state fund for people struggling with gender confusion, and it offers grants for hormones and surgeries for these individuals, even for minors struggling with these kinds of issues. The legislature also made it easier and less safe for women to have abortions. They now allow nurse midwives and nurse practitioners to perform medical, chemical, and surgical abortions without having a doctor present. That makes women less safe. You'd think that there was enough going on in California without the legislature doing more to damage people's lives.
Finally this week, HBO is no stranger to controversy, but a film released just this week is angering many in the pro-life community. Brittany, you've been covering this story. Can you share a little bit more about the film and why viewers may be shocked by some of the content?
Right, well, the movie is named I'm Pregnant and it's based off a young adult book, and it follows two girls from Missouri to New Mexico as one accesses an abortion. Various hijinks ensue, including getting a ride from a stripper named Sapphire, who is pro-life, and also technically stealing a car. So it's a book and a film that will raise a lot of eyebrows.
Brittany, those sound like humorous things you might find in any comedy film, but I understand from your reporting that if you dig a little bit deeper, the actual message of the film is a little darker?
Right, well, the authors really set out when they wrote this book to create an abortion comedy. And we all know that abortion isn't funny. It's a decision that can affect women and men for decades. They also portray pro-life advocates in a way that is both comical and rather aggressive. I'm particularly thinking of Sapphire, the Catholic pro-life stripper, who is, even though a Hollywood Reporter agreed, is a character that is both nonsensical and rather cartoonish. This film is really a reflection of pro-abortion propaganda.
Brittany, it seems with this film, HBO is trying to take a life and death issue, abortion, and turn it into something laughable. Are there any films out there that show the true reality of what abortion is like?
I would really encourage people to check out the film Unplanned, which features Abby Johnson. She is a former Planned Parenthood employee turned pro-life advocate, and this happened after she witnessed an abortion, and it really changed her heart and mind. So I'd really encourage our viewers to check out that movie.
Thanks, Brittany. Those are the top stories we're covering this week. For more news behind the news, be sure to visit thedailycitizen.org, and we'll see you next time.